We're now live. Um, so when it says that we're supposed to start with the 1983 negotiation, and if you recall, like it's about how everybody else has dropped, and in our contract it says if there's any change or whatever, we can take the average of like the top five or something like that. So we
Yeah.
can go, above that. And I think what they were currently paying was 1069. And everybody else, like the top of the market at that moment was nine and it went down to six. But that's top five. And from a management perspective, it kind of seems like um, in order to have the company longevity, we also need to drop these wages down because we can't compete at the cost of production.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting to see, I truthfully, I was a bit surprised to see the outcome in this 1983. That was really what I thought was more for those union for the union group. I thought they would have a little bit less. And so I was really surprised to see the outcome, um, you know, as much as they were awarded, and that the factory still ended up staying there. So I thought, well, if it was me, I'd be grateful. At least I still have a job close by, and I'm still going through these things. Granted, there have been a lot of changes, um, and I can see how it would be a bit frustrating because for so long this has been their life, this has been their livelihood, and this is how things are done, and that can be very difficult for employees to handle, and I think for the union, because I thought about reading both the management just to get a little bit better understanding, but I tried to stick to the guidelines and to stay focused on the union, and I thought that there were some things that they could have, as a union, could have pushed a little bit more. But sometimes you have to take these little steps, and hope that after the time that they can come back and fight it a little bit harder the next time, maybe, and show the company as well as management, hey, we've done all, we've worked hard and we've brought up production and whatnot. So and that can always help as well if they're for future negotiations and such.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, we actually we actually just covered like because you alluded a lot to the 1985, we actually just covered part of the next step. But what do you think for 1983? What did you anticipate to be a fair wage, like for management to come back to you with?
Um, I think I would. I sort of. I think that the wage that they ended up with, which I think it was 1069. To me, I thought that was fair enough. My biggest thing for the union, I thought that they would at least allow, um, a little bit more incentive instead of taking most of the incentives away. But I think for me, I thought in the long run, I thought that's still a fairly good amount, for the wage wise. It still allowed them to be close to their homes, because if they had moved, and still had kept that rate, this 1069 rate, I think if the plant had moved, it would have then added more on these union workers, for the cost of gasoline and everything like that. So for me, I thought, oh, yeah, I think I would have been fine with that, with that wage. It would have been good. I think the other thing that was really difficult was, the fact that for so long they had went from, like this being a livelihood. You're here from the start to the end, and now it's a 7-year contract. And so then what after 7 years? I think I would have liked a little bit more understanding of what the possibilities were after the 7 years. Can I reapply, or is there a limit? Is 7 years it, and then I have to move on or move up? So I think it would have been good for a little bit more explanation on that. I think this 1069 was a good, negotiation for the two groups.
I agree. I thought that that was, I thought that that was being really fair. Um, we're supposed to negotiate a final contract for the 19, have you read the 1985 negotiations already?
Yeah, I was a bit, I don't know, I guess I was a bit wondering I wanted to hear what Chad would say because I don't know, I don't know if I really feel for the union. Even though I chose to do on the union side. I guess I just wanted to see what it was because even in regular management, sometimes you have those that are fighting for the employees only what they want, and sometimes you get managers that are blind to that. And so I really wanted to see a little bit more from an employee perspective. So I think some of the things that I probably would have fought for were, like I mentioned, like the incentive system, keeping some of those things and keeping in mind the cost of living, because I think that's always a problem, with the cost of living going up, fluctuating from time to time. Um, you know,
You're cutting out of that line.
sorry, did you say something, Heather? Sorry.
No, you're all right. You were just cutting out a bit, so I missed like a lot of that actually.
Being attacked by mosquitoes out here.
Oh, sorry.
So just spraying.
Um,
On top of all of this, I totally forgot my papers at my office that I had been reading over the weekend, and so I'm trying to look at my papers that I had online, which I don't have any notes on. So sorry if I'm. It seems like I'm just trying to review to see where I had some notes written down.
yeah, no, you're all right. I am trying to review as well. Um,
I mean, the good thing, and I think with any further negotiation with the management, you know, these union workers really have a point as far as that the company they were still in the future. And whether that happens within their 7 years or at a different time, that's still, I guess, between the union and management. But if their agreement was for 7 years that they would remain this way and the workers accepted it, then I think for them, you know, it'd be an incentive for them to just keep pushing for those 7 years and then hope that in 7 years that there'd be another possibility for an increase.
yeah. What did you think about the injury rates? Like that was something that I wrote down as really interesting that there's 202 injuries per 100 employees. This figure is exaggerated. Um, but this certain plant has more work days that are lost to injury than any other plant. So
Mm. Yeah, I think that was a pretty alarming, especially the ratio of that, you know. Um, and I don't know if it was the factory itself, you know, the machinery or the area that they're working, or the the abilities of the workers, you know. And sometimes you wonder. I was thinking, um, I wonder if these employees are just taking advantage of the company. You know, 200 out of the 100, 200 injuries out of 100 employees. That's like everybody could have gotten injured twice. And
yeah,
I don't know if, I mean, I've worked a long time and I've never seen that many, people get injured on the job. But granted, I've never worked in a factory like this. So, it's just wondering, maybe it was the machinery. Maybe it would have been a better idea for them to be more advanced and to have moved. So I thought it was a bit alarming that the numbers were up like that. And I think as a union representative, that would be something that I would bring to my union group and tell them, hey, we can't be doing these things. We have to really be showing management that we can perform without these mistakes or these errors or these incidents happening. And if we are not sticking to that, if we're not able to show them that we can handle this, then, expect to have layoffs, expect to have these difficult negotiations with the companies or with the organization.
Yeah.
But seeing that there was so many injuries, I think that one of the things I would have really pushed for as well with the management is, and I don't know if this was one of the things that was taken away. I'm trying to remember. But if they had benefits we're getting, and sometimes they worked so many hours, because when I think of a union, I think of like these big industries, coal mining, manufacturing industries and stuff, where they're hands-on, long hours, sometimes having to do quickly, rapidly, and that can wear a person down. And so if we're not giving employees the right opportunities for rest, for leaves, for benefits to recuperate themselves, these type of injuries are going to happen a lot more. And so maybe that's something that the union would need to bring up to management and say, hey, we need to work on giving leave times or better shifts, breaks to allow them to recuperate, or else we're going to keep seeing these numbers going up.
Yeah. Another one to talk about is the layoff and hiring process. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Basically, it talks about how the senior management is basically making all the decisions as to who to lay off and who isn't getting laid off. And some of the best employees are relatively new, and some of the toughest to deal with have been around forever. One thing that I thought about that, I was like, well, since we're already, part of me is like, well, maybe it would be better to start laying off the older employees so that we can get these better employees in here. But at this same time, like, you have to offer them the grandfathered in retirement program and incentives and such. And so, in a lot of ways, that really isn't in our best interest at all, from management's perspective, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's with the union, I was thinking this is where I really had to pull myself out of thinking of management, because I've seen things like that happening with that, where you have, let's just say, teachers who have been teaching for over 30 years and they're so set in their ways. So on the other side, I put myself in that place. What if I was a teacher and we had somebody who had been there for so long, but you could see was causing trouble? And I was thinking, well, I can see how union is trying to explain, what? The thing is, we haven't necessarily prepared these people for not being able to work, this has become their life, and it's hard to change perspective, or attitudes when they've been one way. So I would think that if they were going to look at laying off these individuals, that they would need to make sure that there are helps, or whether it's through financial training or financial planning, maybe even some psychological help to help prepare them. And then at the same time, I was thinking about the self-reliance program with the church, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's become such a strong program, is for members to know as well, things, you're going to have difficulties. Things are not always going to go the way we plan and the way we have hoped, but we have to be ready for the unexpected. And when you are self-reliant, then you're not worried about those things. And so, I would think that management, the union, would try and ask or negotiate with the management to find some programs to help prepare these individuals. But, understand that, yes, I understand why they have to be laid off. Their problems.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned the incentive program and how basically one of the things it talks about in my set of paperwork, from the management side, is that top management feels strongly that the loss in control required by an incentive program system is unacceptable. Any quota incentive plan takes away from management's flexibility. How does the union feel about that? Because obviously, as management, I'm not supposed to be for this incentive program.
Yeah. Let me think. I think for me, this is really part of that. By having the incentive program taken away, and I think this was really a big hurt for those who have been with the company, with the organization for so long. They were not able to get all of these additional incentives to help their cost of living. If you can imagine, some of our workers probably started at age 18 or younger, 17, 18 or 19, and they're now, grandfathers themselves, and they've gone through all of these things, and they've had those incentives, and that's been a part of their understanding of how they budget and how they plan. And now that it's gone, I think that's what our big thing is, again, really having to go back and teaching these people how to live and work without that. And unfortunately, a lot of people can be stubborn, and so it's very hard to, like they say, teach an old dog new tricks. And so I think the good thing for the union in this aspect was that they allowed the incentive, or I think it was that they new hires that never had worked under the incentive program, they were not part of the escrow system, but those who had participated in before, they were still given a little bit at a time. So luckily for those that had been grandfathered in and who had been there for such a long time, they were still able to get some. And I think that part of that saved them, because the new hires were not eligible for that. Although we would want everyone to, as the union, we want everybody to have those kind of benefits, but we'll take what we can get.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally agree with that, especially coming from a management position. I really could appreciate that we did try to help those people, so we're not just leaving people high and dry, because you can't operate, well, I don't think you can operate a company like that. You can't operate a business and maintain a reputation of taking care of your people.
Yeah, exactly. I thought what was interesting too with that is or even in the more of the case, it talked about the elevator clause, and what I think would have been more helpful for the union employees is a little bit more detail about what that elevator clause meant.
Hey, Lily, it disappeared
People
again.
will think elevator or anything going down. Of course, there's going to be those questions, and it's probably because they weren't trained properly. They weren't given the right information.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, Just trying to. One of the things that talks about the management side is that top management is willing to, lock out the employees if we can't reach a contract kind of thing. And I thought that was really interesting that even though, for the last 50 years, they've maintained this awesome reputation of wanting to, like take care of their people. And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? If we can't come to a negotiation, then fine, we'll just lock you out.
Yeah. And it's sometimes I tend to think that management uses that as a threat, knowing that, well, if you don't make up your mind right now, or if you don't accept what we're giving you, then leave. That's your option. Accept it, whether you like it or not, or leave. And that, especially if you have individuals that are very strong-willed as well, and they're like, well, I'm going to see how, if I'm really as valuable as they think, I'm going to hold off and say no. And then you're going to have to make a decision, management, that you're either going to keep me or you're going to lose me. And so that can be dangerous, in those kind of situations.
Yeah, I think it definitely can be dangerous, especially for a small business. Like if you're like, okay, well, fine, if you don't like it, leave, and like that one person handled one entire department, or what would be an entire department had their business been bigger. Like it's like, okay, let's just go try to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, exactly. What I did appreciate, though, from the unions, or from their negotiation, was that even the people that did get laid off, the people that did get laid off, that they still had a chance to accept or decline an offer of a vacancy. They still allowed them that opportunity, instead of saying, oh no, you worked for us before, we're just going to get fresh blood for now. I thought that was really a good tactic for them, because it's up to the employee if they wanted to come back. If they wanted to go through this with this company again, and whether it deal with the headache, or but the thing is, you'd have to be very wary as an employer, I would think, to bring somebody in that you've already laid off, and hope that there's no, I guess you could call it murmuring, gossiping, or spreading of, oh, I can't believe they brought me back here, and everything like that. You'd have to really make sure you have the right person doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I kind of think that we've pretty much covered it. I think we've covered it really well. Do you want to just take a couple minutes and talk about doohickeys? Like my plan is just to turn it in because I'm, close enough to mountain time that it's not going to put me out. I mean, it'll be due at 9 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah. Well, tomorrow, for me, is Monday, which is your Sunday, and so I was planning to go back in and see if there's anything else that I can add, and I'll take a run through and read through the whole thing again as well, and just make any notes, if we need to update or anything like that. So, yeah, I hope Anson's been on. Have you checked it lately to see if anybody else has added anything?
I checked it right before the meeting, like half an hour before the meeting, and nobody but Anson did his solutions. So
Okay.
so far you've done the problems and the intro, which is great, but I kind of feel like
Well,
everybody else.
I figured we've all had something in the last few weeks that has just come up, and for me, I'm like, well, I feel like I've been sort of out of it, even though, because I've been traveling a lot for work, and unfortunately I take my work with me, my homework with me to read while I'm either waiting for interviews to finish, or if I'm overnighting someplace. I don't even watch TV. I'll sit there and I'll be doing homework, and I'm just like, ugh, I really want to contribute to this, and so I am more than happy to do what I can, and I just hope that it's okay that we all sort of see that, and since we're just all putting in our own ideas of solutions, I think, different things, there are so many different opportunities that can help, the doohickeys papers, different solutions and such. So yeah, so I was going to take a look again tomorrow and see if there's anything else that can update, and then, yeah, I think it's fine. I think it'd probably be better if you just send it in when you're ready, because I'm not sure if Jerry's had an opportunity. I know his wife is out of town, and so yeah.
It's hard to be super dad.
I know, poor thing.
Yeah. So, well, that sounds really good. Um, if there's anything I can do, I'm gonna try really hard to get that like major problem done. And you're so cool with it being like the benefits and incentives. You know, there's a serious lack of that, and I think really that, as far as I'm concerned, all of the issues kind of revolve around motivation. And if you would provide some of these, incentives, some of these other problems
Yeah,
would naturally solve.
exactly. And like the lack of communication, if these managers would just open up and communicate with their employees, have their discussions with employees, find out, what needs to be done, and that's the problem is that they've got their management group here, and then there's the factory workers.
Yeah.
And until they realize, and I guess I keep looking at it going, why am I keep saying train the managers, because, well, and unfortunately, unless the management sees that, nothing is going to change. That's the problem.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, every time I read through it, I'm like, the problem is really management. There's no diversity in management. The management
Yeah,
didn't have to climb to the top. Like, it's just like, I don't know.
exactly. Exactly. I keep thinking, oh, I hope I never find a company like Doohickeys that's never had any HR, and then to go in there and clean it all up.
Well, the part that kind of like kills me is when they talk about how you're kind of their last resort. And I'm like, I wasn't a last resort, and you would have brought me in a long time ago. You wouldn't be having like any of these issues.
Exactly. And then I'm thinking, who was doing this before? I mean, fire them. Are they gone? Or is it just one of the managers who, I'm like, fire them. But then knowing this company, he's probably the brother of the owner, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of funny. This is based on a
Yeah,
real.
I every time I read this paper, I just laugh. I'm just like, oh, this poor person.
I'm so glad that's not my headache right now. Do you graduate this semester, Molly?
No, I thought I was, but I'm not, because I need to finish a few more papers in my actual associate's degree. So it's going to be, I think, the end of the year, so after the winter semester.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I saw that you posted on Facebook the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, how exciting. No way.
Yeah, I guess I was a bit confused, and I guess I was a bit excited because, the emails kept coming from the graduating planner thing saying that, oh, because I have certain amount of number of credits, which because I did have some BYU Hawaii credits that I transferred over, but they weren't what my degree needed. They weren't the classes. And so and then I had to speak to my advisor, and I said, hey, what's going on here? And she opened my eyes a bit more, and I was like, okay, I totally understand. I'm not going to fight on it. Let me get these classes done, and then we'll be over with that, and then I'll start working on my bachelor's.
That's where I was too. Like, I went to school 10 years ago, before I had a family and kids and stuff. And so I got all of these credits. And then, a family came into me. I got married and started a family. And then I decided, the Heavenly Father encouraged me to get back to school. And now I went through the exact same thing, and I found out the exact same semester too. Like that these credits are viable credits. They just don't apply towards my degree. And I was like, really? I have another 2 years?
Yeah, because I even tried to skirt around to find a simpler degree, and I said, okay, what is needed for general studies? And then they said science, and I said, oh, never mind. I'll stick with business management. I'll stay this way. I don't want to go to science. I don't want to take any science classes.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
And then they had to take my name off the graduating block, because I haven't been able to register for any of my classes next semester because my name was on that list of I'm graduating. So I was like, please remove it. I need to sign up for my classes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the meeting, and I will look forward to your edits in the
Yeah.
next couple days, and I will continue, to try to work on it as well.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for broadcasting this for us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Have a good weekend, Heather.
You too. Bye.
Bye.